Good morning, good evening, or maybe good afternoon. Hi, my name is Vivian Acquah. I call myself the inclusion strategist who supports teams and managers in creating the environment where you can amplify effective collaboration and communication. And I love having conversations with different people from all over the world. And today I'm always excited, but I'm on a different level excited about having this conversation with Torin. And Torin, I think I've known Torin since 2021. He came across my LinkedIn feed, and from there we started having a conversation. He was one of the few people and the first people that sponsored a few tickets for the Amplify DEI Summit, which I held in 2021 and 2020. And ever since then, we are connected on LinkedIn. Sometimes we see each other, sometimes we don't. Sometimes it's the fault of LinkedIn, but let's keep that aside because that's a whole different conversation. And I wanted to highlight Torin because Torin is a founder, he is a strategist, he is a renowned speaker. So, for those of you who are looking for a way to engage the audience, but also knows a lot about HR practices and inclusive practices, reach out to my brother Torin Ellis because he knows a lot and shares a lot. And I'm smiling ear to ear because of the conversation that we had previously, which we are having again. But I'm also smiling ear to ear because Torin um, opened our conversation with a post that I recently shared, and I am honored, grateful, excited, and also a little bit scared. I'm just sharing my vulnerability here. Excited about the upcoming event that I'm hosting for the European Commission, which is all about inclusive labor in Europe as well. And it's going to be fun. It's going to be real excited, but also it is a stage that the little Vivian in me or my inner child is still embracing, still marinating. I've received so many positive notes on we are proud of you or make us proud or you're standing on the shoulders of your ancestors and so much more. So I'm going to do my best to make people proud, but most of all I'm going to do my best to make myself proud. Thank you, Torin.
You are absolutely welcome. There are no binaries in culture, emotion, and our identities. We are much more
Mhm.
complicated than that. One should
Exactly.
never, ever remain silent for fear of complexity. I'll say it again. There are no
Yeah.
binaries in culture, emotion, and our identities. We are
Yeah.
much more complicated than that. One should never, ever remain silent for fear of complexity. Said by Elif Shafak. She is a Turkish author and essayist. And the reason why I wanted to start there is because you are embarking upon something that is extremely complex. It is
Mm.
nuanced. And right now, what the world is telling us is that
Mm-hmm.
conversations around bias and inclusion and equity and equality, those kinds of conversations are toxic. They are not necessary in
Mm-hmm.
community and in corporate corridors if we allow those that are in power to suggest and codify that our silence is the only thing that's acceptable, then we all lose. And so I want you to stand, Empress, when you are in front of that European Commission and deliver with all of the rich complexity that is within you. Let the bigger Vivian show up. You got this.
Okay, I'm gonna hide behind my car because that's a lot, but no buts. Thank you for uplifting me, brother, but also for sharing this. And I will listen to this what you said on repeat because this is empowering and it's enlightening as well. And really excited. So thank you, Thorin.
You are
Thank
most
you
welcome.
for
Absolutely.
having
And
this
thank you for
conversation.
having me. Thank you for having
Yes,
me. You know,
yes.
last time I we rocked together, we did a panel, had two esteemed guests on my left and my right. I sat in the
Yeah.
middle, had a funky black fedora. This time I said, you know what? I'm not bald headed, so we'll show folks a little bit of hair and let's do our thing here. So let's have a good conversation. Let's hop into it.
Yes, definitely. So let's start off with what is your definition of humanizing the workplace in 2026?
Uh wow, that's a really good question. I wasn't expecting that. but I would probably say it's the same exact definition that I've had for the better part of 20, 25 years. And what I say is the ROI of D&I is greater humanity. The ROI of inclusive workplaces is greater humanity. That is the return. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for us to be better leaders. I'm looking for us to show more empathy, to show more intentionality, to show more proximity, to really get close to the people that we are building teams with and leading inside of organizations. I'm looking for us to be honest and transparent. If there are things that cause us strife in the workplace, that cause us challenge in the workplace, to be able to have conversation about that. If we find people are deviating from the professional norm or the cultural mores or the societal clues, and I want us to be able to talk about these things. And I believe, again, as I said to you a moment ago, if we codify silence, we are the ones that lose. So my definition of inclusion or inclusive workplaces, or however you asked the question, is that we just got to be better humans. And I think that inherently we know what being a better human means and what it looks like. And for those of us who are willing to ignore what it means and what it looks like, for those of us that are willing to not have a shift in our mindset or change our behavior, for those of us that are unwilling to do what it takes to be better humans, I'm just going to say it nicely. I'm not rooting for them at all.
I get I get what you're saying. And I wrote a few themes down because you mentioned the professional norm. What is the professional norm? Who defines the professional norm? And when do we get to decide the professional norm? Because there's so much underlaying here, as even my hair could also be something that others can see that's not fitting in a professional norm, right? A while ago, I think it was 2022, I wrote a LinkedIn post about my hair. I finally have the courage to wear my hair as bold the way that I want to, because when I started my career 20 years ago, and for those who are wondering, yes, I am 40 plus. 20 years ago, when I started my career, I went into this whole loop of what hair is acceptable, what hair fits the professional norm. And in the beginning, you shared also something about I have my hair right now where I'm not wearing a hat, right? So there's so much there that underlays what is the professional norm.
I promise I won't go into a tangent about the whole hair piece. We have the Crown Act that was recently passed here in the US. And so when individuals are watching discussions like the one that you and I are having right now, when they are reading posts from Black women in particular, Black women, secondarily Black men, and then tertiary, probably others from some of our Middle East countries, if you will. When you are engaged in conversations or you are reading some of the posts and you hear them to talk about how they are being policed in various environments, how they are being sanctioned in various environments, how they are being belittled, if you will. There's a theory of assimilation and an association. You have to understand that they are in many ways telling a truth. And that truth is something that needs to be heard. And so to your question around who establishes what a professional environment is, or what does those rules look like, I do believe that it is a shared responsibility. Listen, I get it. There are some industries where you just may not be able to interface with a client and have a body full of tattoos or a full sleeve or a full body. There are some industries in which, hair may be a bit of a difference, or the type of suit a man, woman, or other may wear. I understand that we have to have some of these very nuanced, conversations, but I think that it's just a shared responsibility. And I just don't feel like we should be, let me say it in a different way. I spent time in the military, And I knew that signing up to be in the military was going to require that I removed all of my facial hair, in part because it was out of uniform, but in part because of our gas mask that we had to wear through chemical warfare. They didn't want anything to not be prevent the mask from being flush against our facial frame, if you will.
So it was a safety norm. It was part of your
Absolutely.
safety
And
norm.
so what I feel is that sometimes when we are establishing these professional norms, we are doing them in a way that is disruptive and harmful to other audiences, and it prevents people from being who they are. Your hair right now is not going to prevent you and I from having an incredible conversation. It's not going to stop you from delivering, I should say, rich and rewarding words to European Commission next week. And it has not impacted you from being well received in your clients. And therefore, I just feel like we should be a bit more reasonable in how we are setting up these structures about what's professional and what's not.
I love that. And also another thing that you mentioned about silence. Oftentimes people perceive silence, and silence could be you not responding or you putting your head in the sand. We all know the ostrich symbol where the ostrich is putting their head in the sand and thinking that whatever challenge they may be that needs to be addressed will suddenly disappear. In the Netherlands, we have a saying, I'm going to literally translate into creating an elephant. And the starting is from a mosquito bite or from a mosquito, making that bigger into an elephant. And creating that problem or creating that space where you are not addressing and assuming that things will disappear, it will not disappear. A while ago, I had a conversation regarding with Amira Berger, who recently wrote The Price of Nice. We want to be more nice and we don't want to harm. It's not per se if I disagree with Torin or I disagree with somebody else that I am that the end result should be destructing our relationship. No, we need to embrace courageous conversations. We need to have constructive conversations where we can meet each other in the middle. We don't have to like each other, but we can meet each other in the middle and have that create a phase of how can we communicate better and how can we collaborate better. That should be the end goal. And on the other hand, what I want to underline is becoming a better human. Somewhere in the last few years, or maybe the decade, it seems to be that we are more engaging on a solo term, or we are not collaborating, we are not thinking of others, whilst we need to work with others. So why is it so that when we see other human, whether it's the workplace or in a private setting, that we don't respect them, don't treat them as that? So I would definitely underline that. So before I have a conversation regarding your tool, I want to demystify, or can you help demystify what is neuroinclusion and why is it important in today's workplaces?
Yeah, I don't think that I'll ever be able to do this justice because I'm not, to my knowledge, I'm not a part of the community.
I'll help you.
But thank you. But for me, neuroinclusion is just really a dimension. It's an extension of the root word of inclusion. You can put anything in front of that. And what I firmly believe is that, on that neural spectrum, if you will, there are so many different dimensions. Many of them, some of them I can't even pronounce the name of them. And I'm not saying that in a fun way. I can't pronounce it. There are various dimensions, but what I believe is possible if we are committed to building high performing and inclusive teams is to find out how we can meet those individuals in a way that provides them with the development, the resource, and the support that they absolutely need.
Yeah.
That they have indicated and modeled and shown that in past experiences, given that platform of development, resource, and support, that they are going to be engaged, they are going to produce, and they are going to remain with the organization. And so I feel like, as an organization, listen, this is not, I'll use a word that is, it may come across as a bit harsh. The workplace is not a daycare. I get it. So we have a mission, and if that mission is not being met, then none of us would be inside of the workplace. And so I do understand that we may not be able to accommodate every single example or instance or situation, but I do feel like we can do a better job of, one, providing a space where people feel comfortable in revealing that there is some neuro dimension that they have not shared. What we know, Vivian, right now is, through research, the numbers fluctuate, but I've seen numbers as low as 12% and as high as 18 to 20% of the current workforce is neurodivergent or neuroinclusive. And so if I just put that number over the 150 million or so people that are working here in the US, that tells us that a number, I mean millions, tens of millions of people are neurodivergent in our workplaces. But then if we go out and we ask and do some of that same research, we won't find that those tens and tens of millions have revealed to their workplace that they do have this neural capacity. They just seem to shift to fit in, if you will, so that they are not found, they are not seen. And I just feel like that is a hazardous workplace, whether it's self-inflicted or it's imposed upon them. It's a hazardous workplace that we can avoid.
Yeah, and also to underline what you were saying regarding neuroinclusion, creating a space where neurotypicals and neurodivergent people can collaborate better. It's not only about how we collaborate better. Oftentimes, sometimes the space isn't neuroinclusive, right? So I'm going to share an example of, I identify myself as a neurodivergent person. I sometimes call myself neurospicy as well. And I have dyslexia. That's something that I know. I also suspect ADHD. And there are levels of me that I've done in the past and I'm still doing, is not even knowing that I was part of the neurodivergent tribe, but through my child, I am learning that neurodivergency is perceived differently when it comes to women, when it comes to men, when it comes to boys, and when it comes to girls as well. And when you look at examples in movies or in media, and I'll share an example like, I didn't identify myself with the Piano Man. I did not identify myself, or Rayman. I did not identify myself with Forrest Gump. I did, however, identify myself sometimes with Dory from Nemo, where, you know, you're working on something and you might forget. Sometimes we need some remembrance tools to remember what we are doing, because our mind goes, different roads are leading to Rome. That's how my mind works. And I've often gotten the label, you're weird, or you're doing too much, or why are you going beyond? And this is how my brain works. Sometimes I love the conversation of writing an article, writing a topic, because my mind goes, you know, all the 12 roads. And I've also come to an age where I realize that I need to tone certain things down, because otherwise my brain cannot catch up with my body, and understanding that. But also having the language, having the tools, having the space for me to get support when it comes to dyslexia. How many workplaces are supporting, have tools where they read the text out loud? If I don't have that, if I don't have access to that, then it will be hard for me to read research papers. It would be hard to read text that might seem boring, or for me can come across as boring and not interesting, while it's interesting when somebody speaks it to me, right? So for me, my way of communicating, and I love that we are in a digital space where I do my best to use AI for good. So a while ago, I wrote about using different tools for me to use text to speech tools or speech to text tools, right? So that I utilize my way of thinking and writing in a way that fits me, fits my way of working as well.
Yeah, so I really, really appreciate your providing a couple of examples, especially those that are movie and entertainment related, because they
Yeah,
tend to be a bit universal.
yeah.
And that bringing that back to the workplace
Mhm.
again, if I know that about Vivian and so many others, then what does that do when I'm preparing for meetings on a Monday morning or an end of day or an end of week on a Friday?
Yeah.
Does that suggest that I need to send out our agenda ahead of time? Does that,
Mhm.
mean that we need to carve out space for a person like Vivian to address a particular topic? How do we shape it so that these experiences are not laborious and they're not heavy? We
Mhm.
shape these meetings and these interactions and these collaboration sessions and mind melting and research and application of resources and funding and all of the other things that are germane to the workplace. How does that impact how a person once again shows up engaged, is able to be productive, and they stay with our organization longer? And
Yeah.
I firmly believe that while there are a number of different formulas and ways for us to be leaders, I think that when you distill it, Vivian, it comes down to four very simple pieces. And I've already said them
Mhm.
and I'll say them again. As a
Yeah.
leader, I have a responsibility to develop you,
Mhm.
to inspire you, to
Mhm.
resource you, and to
Mhm.
support you. And as long as I do that, if I develop and inspire you, provide you with the resources, and then support you in ways that are uplifting and affirming and position you properly, if I do those four things, then there should be absolutely no question on your part or mine or the organization's when I am holding you accountable for what it
Mhm.
is that we are supposed to do. If you
Exactly.
are a poor leader, then it makes it hard to have administrative and accountable conversations. If you
Yeah.
are a poor leader, a person who is neuro inclusive or neurotypical might feel
Mhm.
like you are singling them out, that you are
Yeah.
being prejudicial, that you are being retaliatory because you have
Mhm.
not been a good leader. And
Yeah.
I just try to demonstrate, even in my speaking, in my showing up in places like this, and what I'm developing, I try to show up and be a good leader. That is what I want people to know
Mhm.
about TE. That cat right there cares. No matter what happens, he
Yeah.
cares.
Yeah.
If he is on my butt because I haven't done what I'm supposed to do, it's really on me. It's not on him because he's done what's necessary. And I just think that if we go universal, throw all the business books out, not to include yours, but if we listen, just do
Yeah.
those four things and we'll
Yeah.
find that we'll have better environments.
Definitely. And I also want to underline what you said right now when it comes to leaders. I know that being a leader or a manager in today's society where there's a lot happening, it's okay to ask for help. We have a formula, Torin has a formula, and it's okay to ask for help. And it's never too late to ask for help. So know that this is no way pointing fingers towards you. It's a way of sharing what could be and how you can use those tools to empower people. You can use those tools to ignite people. You can use those tools to create a team goal instead of a I goal or a me goal, right? So I definitely like that. I also want to acknowledge Yvette. Yvette, thank you for joining this session. And she says, this is such an important conversation at a critical time in our society. Thank you both for the elevated attention for neurodivergence in the workplace and in the world. And I'm just going to share a different perspective because oftentimes in the past, I discovered let's say that I've known for a long time that I'm dyslexic, but I did not realize that it was part of being neurodivergent. But also, I discovered my ADHD side of myself. I did that in 2022 when I landed with a social hangover. Look it up, social hangover. Maybe the upcoming days I'll write something about that to share the positive side, but also the negative side about that. And realize when you look at Beyonce's video, the video that she did from her first concert, where she did a behind the scenes story, this woman thinks from A to Z. She has a vision, she plans everything. Or even when you look at her album, Lemonade, where she thought about educating other people about Black history. She thinks everything from A to Z. She plans things from with the end in mind. Look at will.i.am. Look at Billie Eilish, is also a person who is neurodivergent. So oftentimes we see typical people or certain people that we cannot connect. And also women are oftentimes also misdiagnosed in so many ways that they discover it too late, or they walk with being undiagnosed. So I would say, even though if you don't have anybody who is out of the closet when it comes to being neurodivergent, um, provide training, provide tools so that maybe people don't know that they are neurodivergent. And it doesn't have to be that they have to out themselves, because sometimes it comes with a particular label, but also provide some more awareness regarding this topic as well.
So
Because
real
it comes
quick,
with all different layers.
yeah, real quick, is it
Yeah,
possible to double click on something that you said? You said it
yeah.
twice now, that women are misdiagnosed, or they
Hmm.
are perceived or
Yeah.
received differently
Hmm.
upon diagnosis. Can you just
Yeah.
say more about that? You gave a couple of entertainment movie related examples, but
Hmm.
can you make it, more so that folks that are listening, to include myself, might
Yeah.
understand how that misdiagnosis or how that misperception manifests in the workplace?
It comes with research, and the majority of the research that is out there is based on men. Men are being taken as
The standard.
the standard, and it comes also with who defines the standard. And we know now that research knows now that women respond differently to different medicine, different things. And also as a woman, I've learned how to behave myself in a particular way that we learn masking at a very young age. So we have that. We have societal norms, we have our cultural norms. There's so much happening. And for instance, when it comes to ADHD, oftentimes boys and men, I say often, not everybody, they are busy on the outside. You'll see that in the way that they move and the way that they portray themselves. With girls and women, they are often dreamers.
Hmm.
They are busy from the inside. It
Mhm.
shows, exposes itself differently. And I often think when in the beginning, when I started my career as a inclusion strategist, I had like 12 different things, and I was sharing all the 12 things, not realizing that not everybody, their brains operate the same way. And if I do that, I will overdose them with so many solutions that they activate the analysis paralysis, that they have too much.
Sure.
They end up in the candy store with so many options that they run away from having too many options, or they overdose themselves with too many options, right?
Sure.
So
Sure.
um, it's important to learn this distinguish. It doesn't happen with everybody, but there is a reason why so many women have a late diagnosis, and oftentimes they have these diagnoses because they have a child who's diagnosed and realize like, there's something happening here because my child is me. I do
Sure.
that. I did that, and realizing that my child has certain levels of being neurodivergent. I realized that my mom is neurodivergent. I realized that my father is also neurodivergent in a different way. So it comes from somewhere and it leads from somewhere. And also realize that if you have an accident where your brain is impacted, you can also become part of the neurodivergent tribe as well.
And so it's safe to say that defining that as a superpower is actually offensive.
Some people find it so. I don't, but I
Okay,
can understand that some people um, are they rather want to see it as a skill, as seeing things differently or understanding things differently. I am not offended, but I don't represent everybody.
understood. Yeah, fair enough. Thank you. No, I appreciate
Yeah.
that. Thank you. Good examples.
I see other comments coming in. So Joanna is saying this is such fascinating, thought-provoking session. That's what we are here for. As a
Yeah.
neurotypical person, I'm gaining so much insight and deeper appreciation for perspectives and experiences I don't navigate myself. So thank you for creating this space for such an important, nuanced conversation. Thank you, Joanna, for sharing this.
And you
And
say Joanna,
also,
I'm looking at the screen and I'm saying Joanna, and I'm like, such a
oh
beautiful
yeah,
name. So I
yeah,
really
yeah,
wish that she was able to
yeah,
phonetically drop
yeah,
that in the
yeah.
chat so that we understood how
Mm-hmm.
to say it. Is it a J? Is it a
Exactly.
long curvy Y?
Exactly.
Yes, I love that, but
Exactly.
it's a beautiful name.
Exactly.
Yes,
Thank you, Torin, for sharing that. And also, Kesha, thank you. Happy Monday back as well. Thank you. So let's go back to our conversation.
indeed.
You mentioned that it might be 20% that is might be neurodivergent. In my brain, there's something going off. Like there are more because we don't know what we don't know, and because
Yes.
also realizing that neurodivergency shows up differently in different cultures. So you have so many layers. If you want to know, look at the diversity iceberg, where all these layers might impact the way we show up when it comes to being neurodivergent, right? But let's look up with neurodivergent talent making up 10 to 20% of the employees. Why do you think that neurodivergent talents is often overlooked or misunderstood in traditional work settings?
You said often overlooked and or
Hmm.
misunderstood. Let me start
Yeah,
with the misunderstood.
yeah.
Misunderstood because they're not people are not willing to, when I say people, I'm using leaders. We have to be willing to extend ourselves in ways that are uncomfortable. And so because you are unfamiliar to me, because you are different than me, should not
Mm,
suggest or indicate a boundary of creating a relationship. I absolutely
yeah.
believe that better teams have better relationships. And so
Hmm.
I should be willing, if there's something different about an individual, I should find a way, whether that be a one-on-one communication, whether it be, hey, you know what, Vivian, let's just go out for lunch, this afternoon. What are you doing? You're not doing anything? You brought your lunch? Leave it to the side. Let me take you to Starbucks real quick. I feel like we should be willing to create relationship in ways that are different but special for all of the people on our
Hmm.
team. And I say
Hmm.
that because I've done it in multiple scenarios and environments, and it's always worked to my advantage. I
Yeah.
think about the person who was in my basic training camp in the military, a white guy from, I believe he came from like North or South Dakota, who said he had
Hmm.
never seen a black person in his life.
Yeah.
Had never seen a black person. This is 1988, 87 when I went into the Air Force. Had never seen a black person in his life. That was the first time, but he was one of my best friends in the
Yeah.
military. So
Yeah.
we find ways to get comfortable. I think that the diagnosis or misunderstanding that you talk
Yeah.
about is that lack of relationship, that lack
Yeah.
of proximity that I mentioned 10, 15 minutes ago. Why are they overlooked? Real simple answer. People tend to reward the individuals that fly high, make the most noise in an organization.
Hmm.
And it's not always because you are making the most noise and or that you are being the most productive that you are the
Hmm.
only individual. I think that if we unlock how to make people feel like they absolutely belong, that's the key.
Yeah.
I feel like so many people want to be better in the workplace, but there's something that has not unlocked for them that says, you know what, I'm just going to hold back a little bit more. I ain't sharing my sales secrets. I'm not sharing my efficiency efforts. I'm not contributing to the meeting. I don't want to put any ideas in the gold box
Hmm.
to make things better. I'm just going to do my job. There are a lot of people that show up on Monday morning, they put their head down and they just do what they are being compensated to do. And so I think sometimes the folks that identify as being neurotypical, they tend to fall into the, let me just show up, put my nose down, and I'm just going to do what I'm asked to do. I'm not going to put my head up. I don't want to volunteer. I don't want to be called out in the meetings, some of that. So I think some of the responsibility is also on them. We've got to figure out a way to get them to say, let me just step out here a little bit. And if you see what's shared in both of my responses is getting into a space that's uncomfortable. As a leader, creating that relationship with the person who is an introvert on your team, just like you do with the extroverts. As a person who is neurotypical, how do I get out and be willing to accept whatever comes with that embarrassment or that misstep or that mistake or that miscalculation? But let me assert myself a little bit more so that people do see that I want to be an intricate part of the team.
Yeah, and also to underline what you're saying right now is everybody has unique selling points when it comes to collaborating in a team. And oftentimes it may be so that people find it more challenging to show up vulnerable, right? So that's one of the reasons why I love doing cultural intelligence assessments, because you can find out what their collaboration recipe is without them showing their vulnerability. You can find out if somebody is a person who loves to work solo, if somebody is a person who rather works in a community. I'm in the middle where I am bringing the Ghanaian part likes the community part, but the Dutch part where I grew up likes to work, collaborate, and solo. And then you also have the layer of me being neurodivergent, where in the afternoon, put me in a meeting, 4 p.m. to collaborate. It isn't ideal, especially if it's the end of the day. But when you do that in the morning, that's when we can meet each other in the middle. So maybe in the afternoon, early in the afternoon, that's where we can meet and say, okay, let's have this meeting somewhere in the middle so that we can tap into everybody, their unique selling points. And also, you said something about when you come across somebody else who is different. From the inside, there's something happening with you where you might not feel engaged or intrigued to collaborate with them. Reflect. Look inside you. What is the thing that makes you, what is the thing that rings the alarm bell, and why? Does it have to do with what you have learned from a particular group or a particular person? And does that person represent everybody? Like I said, I'm born and raised in the Netherlands. I am Ghanaian. Sometimes people think that I'm from the US. No, I'm not. But I don't represent all the Dutch people. I don't represent all the Ghanaians. I represent Vivian Acquah, who is melting different layers of herself and creating that bridge to connect with one another. If you would take the time to connect with me on a personal level, you would know there is so much more to me than more that meets the eye. And that's why I love the Transformers quote of there's so much more to us that meets the eye. My comment section is blowing up. So Keisha, thank you for sharing this. And Torin, do you mind sharing your version of her name? Because apparently I pronounced it wrong. So can you share your version again?
Joanna.
Joanna.
It's a rolling Y for me, Joanna.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. For those who don't know that with LinkedIn, there is this name pronunciation tool that you can use on your LinkedIn mobile. So if you have that activated, I have it on mine. You can see my name and a button, a sound button, so that you can help others to pronounce your name better. So Joanna, thank you for sharing that. And Keisha also sharing her name. Thank you, Keisha, for sharing that.
And Miss Kent, I see Miss Kent in the house. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
I see also Rachel and Keisha is sharing lack of relationships is one of the main reasons. Yes, why things are going left. And unfamiliar, that is Torin. One-on-one is powerful. Keisha Kent also blowing up, and non-traditional. And it's not just happy hour. Oh, that's a whole nother conversation.
More.
We must find a common thread because we all have.
That's it. That's it. Ain't doing nothing but preaching the gospel over there. That's what she doing. That's
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
That's what she
Create
doing.
belongingness.
Yeah.
And also, thank you for your Air Force service. Okay, you have to explain that, Torin. I'm not getting that.
Oh, I was just military, Army, Navy, Air
Mm,
Force, Marine.
okay,
Yeah.
yeah,
So I spent
yeah,
3.5
I get
years
it.
in Air Force. Yeah,
And people will show you what they need, but you don't have to figure that part out. Just give them space to be. Yeah.
indeed.
Also agree
Indeed.
with that. So thank you all for blowing up the comment
Hey,
part
so
because
look, and
there
let
was,
me show you something. Let me just show you
yeah,
something here real quick. I just saw Dr.
mhm,
Pegues is in the building as well.
yeah,
So Dr. Pegues and I were sitting in DC a couple of years ago, and we were having lunch. And I do hope that she appreciates me sharing this story.
mm,
But we were Dr. Pegues uses a wheelchair for mobility, and
mhm,
we were about to leave where we were having lunch,
yeah,
and I said, "Do you need me to help you?"
yeah.
And
That's the question. Yeah.
she politely corrected me in a
Mm-hmm.
way that I will never forget. And she said,
Yeah.
"No, I don't need you to help me,
Yeah.
but if you would like
Mm,
to help me."
yeah.
And there's, of course, more that goes along with that. And
Yeah.
so I just want people to understand that I have said more times than I can remember, as much as I love diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging and justice type work,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
the greatest learning for me has come when I have gotten proximate with the disability community. That is
Mm-hmm.
the greatest learning for me. And
Yeah.
it never fails me that there is an example or some new information that shows me um, how we can be a better human. But again,
Yeah.
you have to be willing to have that shift in your mindset. You have to
Mm-hmm.
be willing to modify your behavior. I
Mm-hmm.
can't be offended and get
Mm-hmm.
online and say that
Yeah.
Dr. Pegues tried to
Yeah.
correct me. All I wanted to do was help her with her will.
Yeah.
Nah,
No, it's
her,
not the time to Darvo the other
it,
person.
not
Don't
at
Darvo.
all.
So
Not at
deny,
all.
attack.
Not at
What
all.
is it?
So
Victim blaming.
absolutely. So I just know that there's so much more learning, and even much more learning in the work that I am doing now and what I'm trying to
Yeah.
build. And it is part of the reason why I'm so excited about what we are doing, because I
Yeah.
know that this community is a community that has so much to contribute to that definition, to that quest, that journey of being
Yeah.
better humans.
Definitely, and I love it. Also, Jared, thank you for showing up, my friend. Empathetic communication, and Keisha is also using the pronunciation tool, and she says, "Yes, I am in the building." Thank you so much for sharing this, and I did not forget the reason for us to have this conversation because
We
a
are
while
having
ago
we're having it for this
we're having
reason.
this conversation, but there is a main reason why I invited you to have this conversation. Besides me sharing about being dyslexic or being part of the neurodivergent tribe, you reached out a while ago saying that I did not know that. No, it's not something that I advertise with, and also it's something also that can use as a weapon against me, right? So I want to be respectful and open up now that I'm a solo entrepreneur or freelancer. I can do that, but I can understand that from an employee perspective that there are people amongst your team that don't feel safe enough, psychological safe or social safe enough to disclose that level of themselves, right? So we talked about your new tool, and I'm gonna pronounce it. I will do my best. Ngoma. So, as the founder of Ngoma, what inspired you to champion neuroinclusion in the workplace, and what is Ngoma?
All right, so there's a couple of ways that I'm going to respond to that. First,
Mm-hmm.
that is the proper pronunciation in Ngoma.
Mm-hmm.
I did a podcast a couple of weeks ago with someone who is Bantu and Swahili, and
Mhm.
they gave me the proper pronunciation. However,
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
pronounce it Noma. The G is
Mm.
silent. Noma is the way that I pronounce it. Noma. Noma
Yeah.
is an additional trust layer in AI data systems and tools. And we do
Mhm.
that through the contextual, lived, and vocal experience of persons that identify with having a disability. I
Yeah.
want you to think about, Higher View, since this is an HR related call. Higher View is a video interviewing platform.
Mhm.
Anyone who goes out now will see that Higher View is in current litigation. They're in litigation right now, Vivian, because they had a person to go through their video interviewing solution. And then the
Mhm.
feedback that the platform provided them was that they needed to exhibit better listening skills.
Mhm.
The problem with that is that the person who was going through the video interview is
Mhm.
deaf.
Yeah.
So if
Yeah.
you're deaf, it's going to be a bit of a challenge for you to exhibit better listening skills. What that suggests is that the Higher View solution excluded persons or data that identify as being deaf or are
Yeah.
deaf in their solution. Here's why I love what we are doing with Noma. Our wedge is extremely strong because Noma, through our penetration testing, through our evaluation, through our audit, Noma sits before the model. So before the data, before the edge cases, we include the lived experience. We also sit after the model. So when you talk about auditing a solution, when you talk about monitoring and governance of a solution, when you talk about risk mitigation and reputation management of a solution, Noma provides that. You got to believe that Higher View's solution and tool is getting taken through the woodshed. Workday getting taken through the woodshed right now through litigation. Eightfold getting taken through the
Yeah.
woodshed right now with litigation. And so I am just simply saying, if we are going to put these tools in front of individuals that
Mhm.
largely determine healthcare, education,
Yeah.
opportunity in the
Yeah.
workplace,
Yeah.
financial services,
Mhm.
life sciences, accessibility, if we're going to put AI data systems and tools in the lives of everyone, then we
Mhm.
should be including everyone and
Yeah.
how these things are being developed.
Definitely. And while you were talking, I wanted to also share a conversation because there is so much to me that people don't know. I often am open about it, but also about some other things that you don't know. So it's almost my 3-year anniversary of me celebrating my new way of living as a person who has a physical disability. And I'm going to explain that. A physical disability that is invisible oftentimes. I had a complex ankle injury 3 years ago where my ankle broke in different places, and the challenge in this situation at the moment right now is that standing too long for me, so too long is more than a half hour, and not having the opportunity to use a high chair or to rest, it will be a challenge. I can walk, I can be mobile, and I can move around, but it has to be on a pace where I'm walking. So, delivering talks, sometimes I need to open up and share my vulnerability that I need a high chair, or I need to able to switch it up so that I have the flexibility of providing the energy that I can. And before my accident, I thought that Europe and everywhere, there are so many tools to provide those who are those who have a disability, to provide them support. Until you walk a mile in their shoes, I literally am walking a mile in their shoes, where I realize that the majority of the design, whether it's the computers, whether it's the physical space, whether it's a new building, oftentimes we don't include different stakeholders to have that conversation, to advocate for a button to just open the door that we design for the able-bodiedness. It even starts with the Friday afternoon drinks. Majority of the people is standing. You don't see me there. If I don't see a high chair or a high table, I'm not coming. And also there's another reason why I'm not coming is at the end of the week, I have misophonia, where sometimes when you end up in a cafe, everybody's shouting to hear each other. To recover from that, I need a whole week to recover from that noise because I'm still hearing that noise in the background throughout the whole week. It does something to my brain. So the design, in the Netherlands, they have a new way of creating buildings where it seems like you need to be a bodybuilder to open the door. Mind you, I have an ankle injury, so if there's nobody there, it will be challenging for me to enter the door because you don't know what you don't know until you need to use your muscle and realizing that my power comes through my ankle. So I'm giving a lot of love and a lot of grace to my ankle. You don't know what you don't know until it's gone.
Absolutely. And again, for us, the reason why I developed Ngoma is because in January of last year, I released a report, Reducing Bias in HR Using Artificial Intelligence. I've been on the AI field, if you will, not the train, but I've been on the AI field. I've been in the arena since 2018, 2019.
Yeah.
I am in no way considering myself to be an aficionado, a virtuoso. I don't know artificial intelligence the way that I know D&I. D&I is an entirely different thing for me. Put me in the ring with anyone and I'm good. I can hold my own. Artificial intelligence, I'm still learning it, but it caught my attention in 2018 and 2019. And so I knew that it was going to be something that was important. Last year, we released the report in January. And when I released the report, it kept sitting with me that we are not doing a good job, not only in HR, but we're not doing a good job in our organizations as it relates to the deployment of artificial intelligence. Then I was focused on the deployment. Somewhere mid-June, July of last year, I started to think about the report and what was missing and where I was looking. And I was thinking about doing our next report on Generation Z. And I said to myself, there's something about this AI thing that I'm wrestling with, but I couldn't put my finger on it. Literally, Vivian, it was December 7th of last year where I said, this is what Ngoma needs to be. Ngoma needs to focus on the prevailing presence and proliferation of artificial intelligence, but it needs to do it in a way that brings in a community that is often ignored, disadvantaged, marginalized, underrepresented. And when I connected those two, I kid you not, on December 7th, in the moment, it was probably 7:30, 7 p.m. Eastern time. I literally, in that moment, felt the way that I felt in 1998 when I started my very first business. It was that euphoric, oh boy. Like I mean, I was on fire. And
I get that. I get that.
3 or 4 weeks, I'm changing our website and changing all of my messaging on LinkedIn and I'm doing everything. And so ever since January 1st, that is the mission that I'm on. And my mission is extremely, extremely simple. You should not release any data, system, or tools that does not adequately include the voice, the contextual, lived, and vocal experience of persons with a disability. And so anybody listening, if you have contacts in the HR space, HR technology space, if you have it in work tech, if you have it in accessibility or assistive technology, reach out to us because we want to be able to take that system through a rigorous process with persons that identify as having a disability and then give them back a result that would make them have a better product. And if you want to understand what that looks like, you can go to Ngoma. On the homepage, you can download a white paper, our Ngoma Trust Index. It will clearly share with you and transparently share with you, this is what it looks like for Ngoma to get in and penetration test your data system and tools.
Yeah, I'm looking up the website link so that I can share with people as well. Is it .com?
Ngoma.io, Ngoma.io.
Okay. Reach out if you want to know more, but also reach out if you want to learn more regarding neuroinclusion. There's so much to us where the majority is being designed for those who look like us or those who don't look like us. And there's so much more that you cannot see. And we are excluded them, whilst we also want to activate and amplify productivity. But if you don't provide awareness and the tools for people to thrive, and that's where equity comes in, is leveling the playing field so that everybody can bring their best selves to the workplace and tap into that excellence. That's where equity comes from. So thank you, Torin. This conversation has been so engaging. And I don't know who LinkedIn user is. I'm sorry, but there are things in your settings that hinders me from reading your name. So my apologies for that. But somebody sharing the business case for Ngoma is trust and defensibility. The human case for Ngoma is tools and systems that equitably serve all. That's a great statement. That's a great statement. Thank you for sharing that. I've reached the last question, Torin, and it's a question that we can always talk about. But 2030, we are almost halfway through 2026, and it's already 2030, where I'm thinking of humanizing the workplace. Oh, my apologies. Humanizing the workplace, but also, where do you see neuroinclusion stepping in?
I'm going to give you an unvarnished and honest response. And it requires a bit of politic, if you will.
Yeah. Bring it in.
I do believe that the largest of people, both here in the US and across the globe, are recognizing what is happening in this moment.
Yeah.
And I do believe that people are going to, or more individuals are going to have a shift in their mindset, and they will change their behavior because of what they are seeing right now and will see over the next several years.
Yeah,
and
which is also impacting them financially as well on the individual level, but also organizational level as well.
That's right. And again, thank you. And I mean politically as well as individually. Their personalized, their personal economy is going to be impacted. And listen, I don't wish bad on many, but the bottom line and the truth of the matter is that we don't necessarily know how this is going to escalate an outcome. When you have political forces that are operating in the ways that they are operating, when you have social influence that is moving in the way that it is moving, and then when you have these technological advancements that, I mean, we cannot keep our fingers on literally by the time this recording is uploaded.
And also the rules and regulations are not being applied in certain areas where Europe is really doing their best to mitigate and to define the rules and regulations. But even then, it's not enough. It's not enough.
They are trying. And so I just think that this typhoon of these circumstances that are happening are going to force individuals to be a bit more human. And I just think that, you know, as it relates to your specific question around neuro inclusion in 2030, I just think that it's going to look a little bit different. I think organizations, however organizations are shaped, they're just going to operate and operate and deliver in different ways, that they are going to be a bit more personalized. I think that they will offer different types of benefits. I think that there will be more a la carte solutions and options. And I think all of those things bode well for the way that we will be working in 2030.
Yeah. I do have a final question that I want to ask you, because given what you shared when it comes to inclusion, but also I have seen the damage that has been done in the US and in a certain level also in the EU when it comes to AI and people being diminished because of a reorganization or because of we are bringing AI. So we are belittling people, not giving grace. And I'm not saying that you cannot activate a reorganization, but there are so many levels of humanity missing when it comes to activating these processes. What can you share about that?
Yeah, I just don't think that that's going to be the prevailing, it's what it is right now. We go through the ebbs and
Mm-hmm.
the flows. And I
Yeah,
just don't think that that's going to be the prevailing position, when
exactly.
it's all said and done. Listen,
Yeah.
last year, and I speak specifically of the political environment here in the US. Last
Mm-hmm.
year, that administration did not
Mm-hmm.
seem like it could lose anything. Like
Yeah.
every single day you turned on they had accomplished some new legislation, they accomplished silencing some industry or player,
Yeah.
they accomplished with applying leverage and pressure. They just seem to be on a streak of absolute winning. In
Yeah.
2026, that's not the case. And so I
Mm-hmm.
just feel like there will be ebbs and flows, but when it all washes out, people are going to say, that Leonard Nimoy quote, there was no one left. When they came for me, there was no one left to defend me. I can't really say the whole thing, but the bottom line is I just think that people are not going to wait for it to be no one left. I think that people are
Yeah.
going to begin and more forcefully to speak up and demand something different be present in not only our political in our arenas, but also in our corporate quarters, because people are not going to sit down silently and say, wait a minute, you've taken my opportunity, you've
Mm-hmm.
created a new role,
Yeah.
you haven't positioned me to be able to take advantage of that new role. So,
Exactly.
yeah, I believe that there's going to be new opportunities and new disciplines and new responsibilities created under artificial intelligence, but I
Yeah.
cannot ignore that machines are doing a lot of work. And so,
Mm-hmm.
in the end, I feel like a lot of people are being set up for displacement. And so, it's up to us to fight back to prevent that from happening.
Displacement and trauma. And the last thing that I want to say before I say thank you to all the people, Maya Angelou's quote: "People will forget what you have said. People will forget what you did, but people will never ever forget how you made them feel." And it will be recorded on TikTok. It will be recorded on social media. People will leave that behind. So make sure that even though you are not the person who decided what will happen, maybe with your team, you can still leave them with some humanity by helping them out, by supporting them through their transition as well. We don't need to create a place where we amplify trauma.
Absolutely.
Thank you, everybody, for listening. Thank you, and Keisha also says fabulous conversation. So thank you, Keisha, and
Thank you.
everybody who
Appreciate
joined this conversation. Torin,
Thank you.
the
Thank you.
best. Thank you for having this
Thank you.
conversation. Until next time, everybody. Bye.